Hello again.
Sherman.
Yes, again.
My name is Chuck Young, and I am the spokesperson today for another spokesperson for Texas Dentists for Medicaid Reform. I'm very honored to work for Dr. Villarreal. And, of course, I'm here to speak in support of SB 1803. I had some written testimony to submit, but I've changed my testimony, so perhaps later I'll email it to the committee to get on the written record. Over a month ago, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, I spoke to this committee on HB 1536, another bill aimed at giving more due process rights to providers. At that same hearing, I want to remind everybody here that we at least were stunned to hear the revelations of Mr. Fred Houston, who was former director of sanctions at OIG. Amongst other things, Mr. Houston claimed that OIG has used experts with little to no Medicaid experience, and that OIG has edited experts' testimony to remove statements supportive of providers, and also that OIG has retroactively applied a new Medicaid policy enabling 100% payment holds on practices despite, and these are his words, no evidence of actual fraud. And at the same hearing, a prominent defense attorney characterized OIG as an agency running amok. Those were his words. And we believe Mr. Houston's statement supports that characterization, but subsequent events, including events just in the last week, have led us to believe that such a portrait barely scratches the surface of the malfeasance going on at OIG. Since the time of that hearing, we have heard both directly from our providers and directly from employees of OIG that the situation there is much worse than we previously believed. Amongst other things, we've been told by OIG whistleblowers that Mr. Stick and his top-level staff have rewritten investigator reports without the investigators' knowledge. We're not talking about cherry-picking expert witness testimony. We're talking about rewriting reports. Staff are being directed to seek payment holds under threat of termination from the agency. If they don't aggressively pursue CAF holds, they may lose their job. And staff that disagree with placing a payment hold against a provider are being told not to ever put that opinion in writing. OIG management, on the other hand, is careful never to put their directives to this effect in writing. We're also told that Mr. Stick has handed out positions at OIG as political favors.
Hold on a second. Representative Stafford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
pardon me for interrupting. The allegations that you're bringing forth are quite serious.
They are.
And wanted to clarify, are these items that you've heard about or that you're testifying are factual?
I'm not testifying to the factuality of them because I don't work at OIG.
Okay. Could you clarify exactly the level of your testimony of the allegations?
I'm testifying that I have been told by employees at OIG.
Current employees?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
I understand. Talking to OIG employees, it's become clear to us that the culture of fear that I spoke about over a month ago doesn't extend only to Medicaid providers. It extends to the employees of the chief regulatory agency overseeing Medicaid in the state of Texas. And these employees are terrified of the consequences to them should they speak out. Many have lost their jobs or resigned already. And this has presented us with a chicken and egg problem. Until there's some kind of cover given to these people, they can't speak up. And up until now, however, we haven't been able to substantiate these allegations enough to push them forward in public as I'm doing today. And we had intimations of this stuff for many months. But it has gotten to the point where the cup is flowing over. And yes, employees are actually coming to us, and they're crying out for an investigation, for something to happen, because they're terrified too. So we're doing the best we can. We don't know whether we're going to go to the Public Integrity Unit at Travis County. We've had discussions with them. At that time, we didn't have a solid enough basis. We may have a solid enough basis now. We may be seeking other means. Attorneys are looking at it right now. I can't honestly speak to that this time. So as to the legislation in question, of course we support anything to bring some reality to the situation. But it can't possibly address this sort of lapse in an agency's leadership. And because as every provider is telling us, and now as OIG employees are telling us, there needs to be some kind of investigation into the goings-on over there. And I'm aware of, we've struggled all day whether to even bring this up in committee. So I'm happy to entertain any questions you have.
Members, any questions?
Sure.
Representative Turner?
Yes, sir. Sir, who do you represent again?
I work with Dr. Villarreal for Texas Dentists for Medicaid Reform.
But who you just testified for with employees of OIG?
No, I don't testify for the employees.
Not for
of
them,
OIG.
but that's who you were speaking of?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We've been contacted by employees at OIG because they don't know where to go.
Vice Chairman Dulles?
And I'm not, it's been a while, but isn't there some sort of whistleblower protection that they would have if they came forward with basically the allegations that you just presented in front of this committee?
There should be, and we are going to be directing people to seek, they need to seek an employment attorney right away to seek that protection.
I have a card. No, I'm kidding.
Huh?
I said I have a card. No, I'm kidding.
Help, believe me. Yeah, probably a conflict of interest there. Anything else?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on, for, or against Senate Bill 1803? There are several people listed registering for the bill, do not wish to testify. Jay Arnold, South Texas Dental, Suzanne Elrod, Texas Council of Community Centers, Marina Hench, Texas Association for Home Care and Hospice, Fred Houston, Lori Imkin, Lee Johnson, Texas Council of Community Centers, Annie Mahoney, Texas Conservative Coalition, Tyler Rudd, Texas Academy of Pediatric Dentistry. Members, do we have any questions for resource witnesses? Okay. I think that's it. Then we call on Chair Colcourse to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I will tell you that I take the testimony to heart. I grew up a dentist's daughter, so I'm very aware of things that go on in a dental office and the struggles of what we've been through. I think Senate Bill 1803 and the committee substitute addresses some of the questions that I heard, and I think it takes a step in the right direction. And I look forward to working with y'all on this matter and striking the balance that we need to. I didn't know, Mr. Sherman, I know you mentioned the resource witnesses, and obviously I know Doug Wilson's in the crowd, but you know, if the last gentleman that testified is you know, some of the allegations brought forth are concerning, and so I think we need to.
Well, and you know, the thing is, who was it? I mean, Vice Chair here talked about whistleblower. You know, I've been here long enough, and you have been too. When someone comes forward and government on a whistleblower, what you could define as a whistleblower issue, there have been times that they suffer. They got to go through hell, and it takes them a long time. And some of them have gone years where they end up becoming, you know, bankrupt, and then finally they go to court and they get vindicated in court and they're broke, and then they got to come to us because we have to, as a legislature, award them something, or they're not going to get anything for all those years. And there have been cases that we've seen where whistleblowers, when they brought forth something that was going on in an agency that was wrong, they suffered for it. And so we can say that people have whistleblower protections, but I got to tell you, freshmen who are here, it ain't that easy. It ain't that easy for them to come forward because it's just easier said than done. They put it on the line, and they see other people that have done the same, and those people are dragged through the mud, and they almost always are vindicated in the end. But you know, it's kind of like Michael Morton over there. You know, he was vindicated in the end. Vindicated in the end, but it took him 25 years of hell.
Yeah.
And so, in any event, it's just not that easy.
I agree.
I guess, you know, maybe some of us can try to talk to some of them off the record. What I have done through the years is talk to people off the record, and sometimes they will share stuff, you know, because they'll feel more comfortable talking to you off the record, and it gives us enough to maybe move forward and trying to figure out what's going on. But to ask them to come out in the open, I'd love for them to do it, but I understand it's tough.
Yeah, I just think that, you know, I've worked with Mr. Wilson, and, you know, I do have a lot of confidence in his leadership, and if that's going on, I hope we get to the bottom of it.
I mean, those are some very serious allegations, extremely serious allegations.
Well, you know, we had some very compelling witnesses here when Mr. Guerrero's bill was before us.
Right.
And doctors and it wasn't, you know, 40% of their cases were, it was, you know, they pull out 65,000, 4 of them had problems with them, and that was enough to stop payment on everything and extrapolate 5 years. And if your dad was audited and they took out 65 of his files and found 4 of them had something wrong with them, even if he could explain it away, they all of a sudden say, no, we're going to extrapolate that you've done something wrong for 5 years.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think that's why we have to put some due process in. And I think also, you know, I'm carrying Senate Bill 8, and I think that there's going to be some efforts there. I think these two bills together are very important.
Well, and just for, you know, with reference to due process and Mr. Guerrero's bill, you know, I've talked to Chairman Pitts on this issue and Chairman Zerwas. You know, I've worked on the budget almost the entire time I've been in the legislature. I know something about fiscal notes. I certainly think that fiscal note was inflated to $3.8 million or whatever it was they put on there. I think it was inflated. Nonetheless, where Chairman Pitts and Zerwas were at on that issue is they think it's worth funding, and said that I could say so publicly, that they would fund it, or they felt they could get it funded during conference. And so, as I mentioned to you, Chair Colcourse, on the floor, and so my interest would be, and this is what I want to talk to Senator Huffman about today, my interest would be in seeing if we could put real due process in this bill, as we have, as you know, in many other agencies in the state of Texas, where you get to go in front of a jury, a judge and a jury. You have a question? Representative Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually, I want to apologize. I think my question is probably more so for the resource witness.
Well, get him up here.
All right.
Although she may know, man, she's, you know.
Well, that is true. Well, I guess I'm just kind of concerned because this is like the second time we've heard a bill in this arena. And I just want to know, is there any type of training for dentists regarding Medicaid services? Do they have, like, compliance training or any of that?
Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman of the Committee. My name is Douglas Wilson. I serve as Inspector General for the Health and Human Services Commission. My understanding is any provider that joins the Medicaid program, they do go through training with TMHP for a period of time. So, I mean, the Medicaid program, as you know, is trying to recruit providers for all services consistently to increase the provider base. So, yes, they do go through some level of training. I don't know how extensive that training is, but there's some training.
So if there are any changes in the procedures or anything, are they informed of those? How are they informed of those changes?
They do bulletins, mail-outs, those sorts of things to notify providers of changes in the program. But as you can well imagine, the program the size of Medicaid, there are a lot of bulletins going out about the different types of services. So you have to be plugged in and know which bulletins and notices apply to the service type you are providing in the Medicaid program. And the program does mail-outs and those sorts of things.
But what we're hearing, if I could interrupt for just a second, what we're hearing is that it's not a defense. If it's TMHP, it's just not a defense. And
Of
so
what
is
is
anybody
TMHP?
who's teaching TMHP? Are y'all? Are you telling
OIG?
TMHP? Are you all telling TMHP what to teach the doctors?
Yes,
Because right
sir.
now,
The Medicaid Shield Division has staff
because
that oversees the contract.
what we're hearing is that when you all go after a doctor, and doctors can show that they did everything they were supposed to with TMHP and TMHP approved it, you say, that's not a defense.
Well, so remember, my response to that would be this. I believe the state of Texas has two courses of action. One perhaps against TMHP and one against the dentist. TMHP is not seeing patients. They didn't sign up to see patients. They did sign up to review documentation that came into them. The system, I think we would all agree, is built on some level of trust that the people we're contracting with are going to do the right thing when they send the paperwork in to TMHP, that it's supposed to be correct in their best judgment. And then TMHP is supposed to verify that the information is correct. I don't think there's any secret in, as indicated before, my office did do an audit of TMHP and indicated they only had one dentist on staff reviewing tens of thousands of requests coming in per month. The workload we thought was huge, difficult for them to do. However, the front end piece of that has to be that what you send to them, you believe to be accurate and correct. If it isn't, what you're sending isn't accurate and correct, and perhaps you're doing that intentionally, I think there's a cause of action with the provider.
But But when you intentionally, as you know, if you dealt, well, I assume you have dealt with the medical community, and all of us have. We go to doctors. We all go to doctors, and I'm sure everyone here has heard the phrase "a second opinion." So you go to doctors, and doctors do their best. Generally speaking, I would say, well, I think you need to do this, or I think you need that, I think you need the other, and so these doctors do their best to say, well, this is what I think this person needs. They send it in to TMHP. TMHP says it's okay. Doc says, well, I guess I had a second opinion, and they said it was okay. But you're saying it's not an affirmative defense.
I'm saying the current due process that exists and the one that will be afforded in this bill, should it pass, there will be someone to make that determination.
I'm sorry, Representative.
That's it. Thank you. No.
Okay. Any other questions for the resource? Chair Colcourse, you want to close again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I close.